we're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy where we have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. Today we're talking about season 1 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which ended like what, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, it was right after 4th of July, right? Or
Right
right
on.
before. One or the
Yeah, and
other.
I'm so excited to be joined by this wonderful panel of friends. I got Braxton to my left, I got Fathery on the bottom, and I got EGT to the
Can
corner.
you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Yay.
Good.
Yay. And we got some cool folks in the audience already. Look at that. We got Uncle Arthur. Hello, Uncle Arthur. Nice to see you. We got Joel. We have our new subscriber, Benjamin. Benjinium.
Benjinium.
Sorry, Benium. Sorry, I just like slaughtered your name. But thank you for subscribing. And Michael's here, and so is our friend Jill. So it's great to see y'all. Let's get started. How is everyone today?
Very
there
good.
might be a surprise guest, just FYI. Like,
I'm wearing my TOS red.
oh, let's see. Nice. Looks good. And a field jacket too, Earl Grey Trekkie. Looks good. Yeah. It's like how's it going, Braxton?
Oh, I'm well, thank you. It's nice to chat with you boys. I've missed you. It's been
I
a few
missed you
weeks.
too. Yeah, it's been a few weeks. Fathery, I don't miss you because I see you like a lot.
I know, yeah, we've had so far we're in like hour 5 of streams we've done together this weekend. And we're not even done yet. We still have more stuff later today to do. So
yeah, and actually Arthur, Uncle Arthur in the audience was saying that cool, there's so much stuff from the panels, lots of little details. So Uncle Arthur, if you got some time right after the stream at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central, just head on over to Text Track and we will pour over every little detail, right, Fathery?
Just,
Yeah,
just
we're gonna
head over to Texas. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. We're going to be combing over both the Picard season 3 trailer and the Lower Deck season 3 trailer, as well as sharing all the pieces of info we got from Comic-Con. There were some interviews held outside of the panels, and there's a lot of information that we didn't get to talk about yesterday when we were doing the Trek Central stream. So we'll be able to unpack all of that.
Yeah,
later
that was
today.
a lot of fun, by the way. Thank you to everyone who came out and supported us there on Trek Central stream. It was a huge stream. It was hard to keep up with all the chats. We tried our best, so I hope no one we didn't miss anyone. It was great, like finding, talking about everything as it unfolded, reacting to trailers. I loved your reaction to the DS9 reveal, but we'll talk more.
No,
about
I need to
this.
make a clip of that.
Yeah,
Like, put it
we'll
on
have to grab
TikTok or
that.
something.
Very cool. And yeah, so that was a lot of fun, and we love that you guys were there. So thank you so much. Well, gentlemen, shall we get right into season 1's recap here, like our discussion?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Excellent. So let's give some overall impressions. Why don't you go first, Robbie, since it's been a minute since we've seen you?
I think overall, I was expecting the show to be good because it's going back to that episodic format, which I really like. You have that differing of genres that's really special, makes each episode unique and different, allows writers to really put their mark on an episode, to be honest. And the show really enriches characters that weren't given a spotlight before, and that I think that's fantastic. And there's something beautiful about the fact that Pike has this trauma, and now he has this through newer Star Trek. He's been given almost this decision to go forward, knowing how he will be, or to cower away from that. And he's just the community of the Enterprise has been like a healing to him, and I think that's a wonderful thing to have as a role model. Someone whose community is getting them through dark times, because it's very relevant and it's very special. Pike's a very open and collaborative role model, and I think Anson Mount has just knocked out of the park. And if anyone was to say Captain Pike, Anson Mount's portrayal is their favorite Star Trek captain, then I could say I'm almost there with you. He's been superb.
Well put. Nicely said. How about you, Braxton?
So I thought that season 1 of Strange New Worlds was good. I think its strength is its episodic storytelling. I think that Trek fans have really missed that with new in the era of new Trek. But then also, Anson Mount is super handsome and super charismatic.
He
You
sure is.
know, um,
They,
those
they
are the
all are
two.
really, to be
Mhm.
honest. Like, yeah, but yeah.
So, for instance, I've been watching season 2 of Discovery, and and Anson Mount is just so handsome and so charismatic. One thing, it's been a couple of years. I can see that he has beefed up a lot, and that might just be because the actor was doing Black Bolt in Marvel, so he had to be, just physically like thick. Um, but Anson Mountain's just super charismatic. So also something. so also, Strange New Worlds makes me appreciate Discovery more. I was like looking at just like all the nuance and all the different things that Discovery and also Picard is trying to do. Something that I felt about Strange New Worlds, the Strange New Worlds is like mostly like all candy. Like everything looks good. They have all these derivative stories. They're telling episodic they're telling their story episodically in the way that like older fans are used to, but in the end, like I don't think that they're really trying to do anything different or new. So like I think that Strange New Worlds was pretty good. It's a good launching point for people who are just getting into Star Trek now because, like, it's like candy. Um, Also, something that I missed on Strange New Worlds was the queer representation that Picard and Discovery were serving me. Like, I don't know. I just feel like almost every episode that I watched of Strange New Worlds, I was wanting more because Picard and Discovery had spoiled me so much in what I like and prefer as a viewer. Um, so I thought that we had a good first season, but you know, yeah.
Nice. I like what you said about the uh, Star Trek Picard serving the queer representation, and I think we can talk a little bit more about that as we go on through the discussion. Patrick in the audience says, "I agree. So many people compare Strange New Worlds to disco in a way that is derogatory to disco, but I think it actually adds something to the tapestry that makes me appreciate disco even more." Weren't you just saying you said like watching season 2 again hits differently right now? So yeah, that's pretty cool, and I can't wait to kind of go back and rewatch the earlier disco and see it, through the Strange New Worlds, like with the extra information that we've gotten. It's very cool. Um, hey, Gay, nice to see you. Gay says, "I love all the shows, but Strange New Worlds felt like the most familiar to me." Yeah, it definitely has that vibe to it for sure. We also have our friend the Spotted Giraffe, who's in in the audience. Everyone, go check out her amazing cosplay. Speaking of Strange New Worlds of Queen Mab, and she got highlighted at the San Diego Comic Con. So we'll talk more about that.
Wow.
Yeah, Giraffe, if you're around, I guess it would be 1 p.m. California time, hop on over to Text Trek because we're gonna be like talking about that stuff. So we'd love to have you there. But also it's cool that you're there. It's like amazing. I can't wait to listen to your podcast and A Strange New Pod and get the details when you guys download us on it. So everyone check out A Strange New Pod, and also shout out to Julian, your co-host, who's awesome as well, that we met in Chicago. So yeah, Fathery, tell us what you thought. Overall impressions.
I thought Strange New Worlds was great. I felt like there was such a demand for a return to episodic Star Trek. There was such a demand for Anson Mount Pike TV show. There was such a demand for just the lighter tone, not like the dark dreariness that. And I've enjoyed Discovery and Picard, but both those shows have definitely at times taken on a very darker shade, and people wanted that more optimistic Star Trek future. So I felt like there were just so many boxes they were trying to check with Strange New Worlds, and I think they did a tremendous job, satisfying all those appetites. In a lot of ways, it helped them knowing that, oh, here's the things that people are demanding, so let's try to make sure that we can address these. But at the same time, it owes a tremendous amount to Discovery. I think we have to give credit to Discovery for the casting and the creation of this version of these characters with Pike, Spock, number one, that beautiful John Eves redesign of the Enterprise. So much good stuff in Discovery. I'm sorry, in Strange New Worlds, it kind of had its origin in Discovery, and also Discovery being the weirder show, the more experimental show. Strange New Worlds was able to learn a lot, like, oh, look, these things really work, these things didn't work as well, so they were able to learn a lot from having the several seasons of Discovery to look at. But yeah, I think most of the credit goes to just Anson Mount as Pike. He's just so fun to watch on screen. He's just so perfect at being that ideal 23rd century man, Starfleet captain. So I think that it's no surprise that the show has gone over so well and will probably continue to do so for many years to come. There's all these people. Remember, and all these people freaked out about, like, oh no, Paul Wesley's gonna take over the show. I was telling y'all, like, no, you're insane for thinking that. No way, zero chance. They're not letting Anson go anywhere. And now, like, the showrunners have, like, reiterated constantly, like, no, this is the Anson Mount show. We have 7 years we can do of Anson Mount as Pike on the Enterprise. So again, a validation for me, but not that I was surprised by that. But yeah, I'm excited, that we have, like, this very good maiden voyage. I guess my only concern would be, like, it did kind of feel like they played things kind of safe for the most part. And I think that's understandable to do in your first season. They've already promised they're going to get, like, a little weirder in season 2. So that's what I'm looking forward to seeing. So yeah, I think the sky's the limit right now. Like, at the end of All Good Things, when they're sitting down to play poker with Picard, what did he say? Like, nothing wild, sky's the limit.
He said something.
5-card stud.
Nothing
wild, sky's the limit.
Wild, sky's the limit. Yeah. So there we go.
Doesn't he say? Yeah, nothing's wild, the sky's the limit. Yeah, it's cool. I love that. Have you ever played 5-card stud? Is that a Texas game? Is that a Texas card game or no?
I mean, people play it here. Texas Hold'em, I guess.
Hold'em is the one, right?
That's the one most people would associate with Texas, probably.
Joel's pointing out from Pike's hair to the chair, the Strange New World arc. That's pretty funny.
Well, I love that they brought that up. They brought that up in San Diego. Anson said he loves the Pike hair memes that are online. So that's cool.
It's funny what gets, like, what memes get really popular. I love it. I guess the only thing I can add, because you guys have so beautifully kind of illustrated this, I have a lot of the same feelings about season 1, but I just again feel like I guess I could. Strange New Worlds for me feels like a nice warm bowl of soup in the winter. Like, it's just, I've watched it so many times. I find myself wanting to just, like, randomly watch an episode. As soon as I start thinking about it, I want to go and watch the episode. I've watched Equality of Mercy, like, more times than is probably a good idea to admit. So yeah, for me, this season was just astonishing. I didn't express this much, but I was kind of, like, a little resentful at all the love I saw online for Strange New Worlds. Like, I was like, no, like, I was kind of, like, a little mad, like, no, like, whatever, like, it's not gonna be that great a show.
Why were you mad?
I was just mad. I don't know, like,
because he loves Picard.
I do love Picard, but also something along the lines of just, like, what Patrick was saying. There was so much dissing of Discovery, and, like, there's just a lot of, and so all of a sudden these, like,
you can like more than one Star Trek show.
No, I know, but all of a sudden all these haters were coming back into the fold.
People hate on every people dissed on Voyager so hard. People dissed on Enterprise. True. I was one of those.
People
diss on Picard so hard.
I was a Voyager disser and an Enterprise disser. It's
true,
you
won't even watch Voyager.
I am watching it. I'm watching it.
How long have you been watching it for?
Hey, I'm not saying these are rational feelings. I'm just expressing the feelings I had. So I had a little tiny bit of resentment that I harbored secretly for Strange New Worlds. And I was like, that resentment was washed away into the deep, the depths of outer space. and I just like fell in love with the show.
Yeah, how can you resent that magnificent pike hair?
Just everything about it is almost note perfect or pitch perfect, if you will. So yeah, I really enjoyed the season, and I'm really excited about talking about the episodes with you guys. So let's get going. Let's go ahead and start with what did you all think of the premiere episode? Strange, same title by the way, Strange New Worlds. And why don't you kick it off there, Fathery?
Oh, well, I liked everything about it except for the title of the episode. It's like, really? Y'all couldn't put like any effort into that? But the writing in that episode really impressed me. The way that they introduced the cast of the show to a new audience, I felt like if it didn't have, when they're talking about like Michael Burnham a little bit, and then talking about like, oh, that the battle with Section 31 with Control and all of that stuff, they had not put in those little conversations in there. I think that would be a perfect gateway for new audiences to come into Star Trek, and I think it still works that way. Someone might get confused with that stuff, but I like that they're not ignoring Discovery either. But yeah, I think it's a great example of what a traditional Star Trek story is all about. We have the social commentary, we have the fun science fiction. They're genetically altering themselves to blend into an alien civilization. We have the fun action adventure. Captain got to throw a punch. Spock got to nerve pinch someone. We got to see cool Mountain Man Pike and that cool when Robert April shows up on that shuttlecraft. I was like, oh, yeah, I love that TOS aesthetic and how they're respecting it. So yeah, I thought it was a great way to kick off a great show.
What was your favorite moment, Robbie?
I think in general, I just liked going back to the fact that we have a kind of retro futuristic Earth, similar to TOS, and the fact
like
that
the mid-century modern kind of aesthetic. Yeah, I love that.
and also just undercover first contact. It's such a played out concept in Star Trek, but it's always thrilling to me when you see the characters trying to avert a war or change a society's progress, and the way Pike handled it was superb. I think Anton Mount's laid back performance just chews up the scenery when he's talking about being so cautionary about nuclear weaponry, and I do think there's a bit of leaping you have to go logic wise that the Kylie 279 planet obtained this technology just from observing. It seems a bit unrealistic, but I think the core messaging and the characters and the acting was just solid, and it made me forget about that pretty quickly.
In my headcanon, if they have anything like the Webb telescope, they may have indeed seen like broken apart version, like ejected warp cores and other technology, and those Kylie scientists may have been able to cobble together their own version of a warp core with that. Father, you're on mute.
Sorry, I was trying to quiet my dog's weird noises, but yeah, the thing with the Webb telescope is it takes a few years before it can see anything, because the speed of light kind of puts a delay
remember
on it.
On the I don't want to get into a debate, but remember on the map, it showed that Kylie was in the midst of the battle. Like it was right, it wasn't too far away. Like
yeah, it looked like it looked like it was maybe like 4 or 5 light years away. So
yeah, so
that's still 4 or 5 years.
No, but like it could have been closer actually. Well, we'll have to go back and examine, but my impression was that it like happened like maybe less than that, like probably a couple of parsecs away or something like that. So
how far a parsec is? Isn't that like 2.6 light years?
Yeah, whatever. But it doesn't necessarily take the light, because like some of those explosions are probably happening maybe in like a accelerated fashion, like in maybe they're creating subspace disruptions or things like that. So who knows, like, I mean, but yeah, good point about the, it takes time for the light to get there. So yeah, maybe that's true, but whatever. I'm not gonna worry about it. Maybe they had like they had quantum technology in their telescopes that looked into space in real time, or they were using subspace telescopes. Who knows? Like there could be all kinds of explanations.
I
But
mean, I
get
don't
what
think it's
you're
a
saying.
big deal. I just wanted to. If you were going to start talking about like real world technology, like the Webb telescope, I just wanted to bring that up. But
It's true. It's true. I just meant the resolution of the Webb telescope. But like, despite that, like, yeah, I guess that's kind of like there's always going to be something far fetched, right? Like, I haven't seen a show except for maybe so far, with in terms of like paying attention to actual physics and stuff like that, where a show does it perfectly. Maybe it looks like For All Mankind is
For
off
All
to a good
Mankind,
yeah, it's
yeah.
off to a good start. So I started watching that show finally, and so that's one where
Oh,
I
nice.
think they have higher standards. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a great show.
Braxton, that first episode, how did it hit for you?
Seeing this shot right here makes me think that if I were Pike, I would have driven my pickup truck out there to meet Robert April in that field. Because, dude, it's cold, it is snowing, dude. Who wants to put the horse through that?
That horse might, like, it's a little shaggier. Look at the hair. Maybe maybe it could withstand the cold a little better.
I when this episode opened, I was struck by the fact that Anson Mount seems, or not Anson Mount, I'm sorry, that Captain Pike seems to be living like a person hundreds of years ago, like 2 or 300 years ago, from like the time that he exists. Like I was looking at like his like flat screen TVs, like I was looking at his like dial phone, you know. So I thought that was interesting. Really, the most that I remember about this first episode is that in the days prior, I was experiencing a lot of anxiety because like people on Twitter were talking about, oh my gosh, like Robert April, like they've like made him black in the show, and I had to like tune all that negativity out. So I remember, just feeling some tension um, in approaching this first episode. But I thought it was a great introduction to our cast. I thought that the actor who plays Robert April was very good in the role. In the a few scenes that he had. Um, I thought this episode was good and got us off to a strong start for the season.
I agree, and it really did a great job of like introducing the ensemble, I thought, and giving us that like kind of like we got a little it was fun. It was really fun, the mission on Kylie, to go save Una, seeing the USS Archer, one version of it. I feel like they probably named a bunch of ships the Archer. Seeing that, like, so right off the bat in the first episode, we get a couple of ships like in the background too, like at the space yards. Nice little nod to Stamets with the shuttlecraft, like again, and other than and the disco nod that you said earlier with Michael, and they even gave us a little, a little tease, like we didn't get everyone, like Sam and Hemmer weren't there till the end, like there is just like a really cool thing, and Robert April was awesome. Like I know what you're talking about, Braxton, because I saw that too, and it was like concerning, but like how people were reacting to it was a little disappointing. But is it Adrian Holmes, right, the actor?
That
Adrian
sounds
Holmes.
right. I think so.
Yeah, Adrian Holmes is
Uncle
just
Phil
stellar.
on the new Fresh Prince.
Yeah, on the new Fresh Prince, and
Both
I
Uncle
agree.
Phils have been in Star Trek now.
Oh wait, well, when was Uncle Phil, the original Uncle Phil, on Star Trek?
He was a Klingon in Discovery season 4.
You're
in
absolute-
Enterprise season 4.
Oh, you're absolutely right. That's true. Oh wow, that's cool. That is a neat thing. And I agree with Jill in the audience. I would love to see a more Robert April. Like he is such a great admiral, a good admiral. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
like,
He's a recurring character. He's the Admiral Forrest or
Forrest,
Admiral
yeah.
Vance or Admiral Ross, but for Strange New Worlds, it seems.
yeah.
I want to know
And-
why he gets demoted down to Commodore at some point, but
Yeah, Yeah, it'll be interesting to find out. But maybe he goes out. Maybe he goes to bat for Una in a way that breaks that, or for Pike and crew that breaks from protocol, or is egregious enough to get him a demotion, which would be fitting of Robert's Captain April's. I'm sorry, Admiral April, Commodore April's character. I think so. It's pretty cool. We'll find out, I'm sure. But yeah, it was a pretty strong episode, and like you said, Robbie, that message, basically like not just holding up a mirror, but also pointing a finger and saying like, "Look, society, look at what's happening," and that was very powerful. And I thought, I was like, "Wow, this show's really." It's not gonna hold back. And even though you're right, it could get weirder, I think it was bold in many other ways. So yeah, this episode was a great start. Shall we move on to?
Can I say some?
Oh yeah,
last
sure. Go
things?
ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, of course.
I remember being disappointed in the episode, or being ready to be disappointed when Pike was in his cabin, and he was with Captain Patel, and I was thinking, I just want to see him on the Enterprise. Is he going to be in his house for quite a chunk of this episode, flirting with this younger woman? And I was thinking, that's kind of like Kelvin Kirk. I'm not sure if I like this. But no, it was great because he's in a shell at the start of the episode, and then he gets called back to Starfleet. It's so perfect as a kind of structure. And then when he gives that speech, it's also a speech of a character who's becoming more confident as well, in himself. And I also was really impressed with Akiva Goldsman not disappointing me, and thought, wow, you really did
Yeah,
a
because you
good
didn't
job.
like the stuff he was doing in Picard season 2, so you were a little worried, right?
Yeah, I wonder if it must have been difficult because surely he was writing Strange New Worlds as well as Picard, and he seems to have a lot more passion for TOS and for Strange New Worlds, and I think that's why he's doing a lot better in Strange New Worlds. But also, I just really love that we're seeing these characters who are less fleshed out, like Robert April, like Spock's relationship with T'Pring.
Right on. Hey, Cake It's Eternals in the audience. Nice to see you. Jill's pointing out that I think that Commodore rank for a civilian ambassador position is not necessarily a demotion. Is that right? I don't know. I don't know enough about ranks and stuff. Oh, here we got an answer. Commodore is a higher rank than captain. I think it's like the first level of an admiral.
It's like a
basically.
1-star admiral.
Star admiral, yeah. So
like one of the characters in the Star Trek Picard character reveal teaser trailer seems
Geordi,
to
Commodore
possibly be
Geordi.
a Commodore. So yeah, we'll be talking about
not
that.
possibly. It's
in an
Terry
hour and a half.
Terry Metalis tweet and wrote Commodore LaForge on the tweet.
So that's confirmed then.
Confirmed, yeah. We get our confirmations from multiple sources these days.
I just looked at it. I just looked at the rank pip and I knew what it was.
You knew, yeah.
I guess it's easier just to ask Terry. He watches our content after all.
I know, apparently. Terry Metalis, invite us to the premiere.
Oh, he invited me. You didn't get yours?
What? Oh, man. Heartbroken. Robbie, what did you think of Children of the Comet?
I thought it was a more typical style episode, but I really liked that we got to explore this very mythical kind of comet and kind of had an introspective look at religion.
Mohanut.
Because I thought at first that the episode was kind of criticizing religion and people, and I thought that's not a great message, even if I'm not religious. But at the end, when it turns out the religious people were actually right in their beliefs, and Pike was too quick to judge. I think it was a kind of simple message, but it was well woven, and I really liked that Uhura got to get her due because we've not really had an Uhura-centric story, and this was putting her to the spotlight. And it also continued Pike's arc because he is asking Uhura, where do you see yourself in 5 years or something like that, because he is unsure about his future, and his healing is continuing with this crew and with this cadet and this family. And it was also really cool to see Hammer and Sam Kirk be very Kirk-like in his decisions.
Are you talking about like the getting knocked out from touching the money?
Yeah, he was just like, this is a weird thing, I'm going to touch it.
Well,
And
it's a weird thing. I'm gonna go touch it. I'm quoting you on that. That's amazing. That is a pretty Kirk. Or it's a Kirk family thing, maybe. Braxton, how did you like this? What did you like the most about this episode? Or how did you feel about this episode? I shouldn't say like the most. You could dislike it too.
So, Children of the Comet was one of my tops of the season. I think this episode probably ranks like third or fourth for me. I really enjoyed the Uhura stuff. I was super concerned about Sam Kirk. I was like, oh, dude, are they gonna kill him already? But then, they they didn't.
Kill him, bring him back to life so they could kill him again in TOS. I
And
mean,
this
his
is
heart did stop, right? Didn't they have to defibrillate him or something like that?
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
So yeah. Okay. All right.
And this is the episode where they introduced Hammer. He caught he caught the knife.
The carrot. Oh no,
The
yeah, the
carrot.
knife. Sorry, you're right. Was it the
Yeah,
carrot or the
carrot.
knife? I forget.
yeah, he caught the carrot. And Spock was like, "Oh yeah, like, he can't see, but he's got like all these abilities."
Yeah, it was cool.
So yeah, I
Can't
thought
wait
this
to
was a
see
good
more of that
episode.
guy.
This was one of my tops for the season. Especially, I especially appreciated the Uhura story building.
Yeah, that was really powerful, and they did such a beautiful job of like both you and Robbie just talked about it, so I just want to say a little note on that. But like, it was such a powerful moment at the table, how everyone just kind of like stopped and then listened to her, and I love the reactions. They were not all like some people were like kind of cringing because they were like, "Oh, why are you here then?" That kind of thing. Like, it was a very cool and nuanced moment, but also just to get a little bit more of Uhura, and like it's very cool. Celia R. Gooding is amazing as Uhura, as young Uhura, and I am here for her. I think she's fantastic. How about you, Father? Yeah, overall impressions of this episode?
Speaking of Uhura, that one little conversation scene between her and Pike at the dinner party, when he's just like, "Tell us about yourself, cadet," and we get all this information about her motivations, her backstory. That little 2 minutes of screen time right there was all the justification in the world we needed for why they needed to recast Uhura and bring her back and make her a regular on this new Star Trek show. We had never gotten that stuff in 3 seasons of the original series, 2 seasons of the animated series, and if you count the original
Films.
series movies and Kelvin movies, 9 movies with this character? So yeah, they totally chose wisely as far as like what characters to explore. Same thing with Number One, Chapel, and Benga. And actually, I'm such a TOS fan. I love like some of those early episodes when it's kind of more when like Gene Roddenberry wanted to have the other characters besides the big 3 doing like cool character moment stuff. And it was Gene Coons who's like, no, we need to focus on Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. But some of those earlier episodes, you see, kind of like Sulu and Rand hanging out in the little botanical lab or whatever. And then in the rec room, when you have like Uhura singing while Spock's playing the flute, I always like really loved those moments.
Yeah.
And so here, when like Uhura is singing in the
Yeah.
Comet, that was like the first moment like Star Trek Strange New Worlds made me cry. I was just like, oh my
I
god,
know,
so
it's
like
such a good.
I
it's
needed
true.
to hear like Uhura sing again. I never would have thought I would get that, and so yeah, that was is another good example of Star Trek to a new audience who's coming into the franchise for the first time. I thought that the look of the comet was cool, the mystery was cool, the stakes of trying to save a planet, Starfleet being like the good humanitarians. And I always say like your second episode is kind of your first episode, because the first episode is always atypical. You have to set things up. You might be kind of figuring out how you're playing the characters or writing the characters or whatever, but like second episode is more of a typical example of a show generally. So yeah, it was cool to see that and see like, oh, okay, they're gonna do something consistent week to week here.
Yeah, and I'm getting goosebumps just remembering the little mini kind of arc in the episode of Spock uh confronting Uhura about her, about what she said at the breakfast table, and then at the end telling her, if you choose to, remain in Starfleet would be better off for having you because of, what this wonderful, talented young lady did in the episode. And then also that moment was great too, like seeing the shuttlecraft using its heat shields to cut apart, a piece of the comet so that and then like, that like goosebump reveal at the end also where Uhura's like, hey, the comet knew you were gonna you're gonna do this all along because it sent this signal through its, that showed that this was the final shape already. So I loved it. Was very science fiction meets like, kind of mind-bending ideas, and like, and I think it's wonderful when Star Trek creates like a debate or a discussion, and that was a cool discussion that I remember seeing. uh Jill saying we can't see your face. I know I like to put myself on the bottom here so you can see everyone else's faces, but I'll hide the banner from time to time for you, Jill. But just seeing the discourse that occurred about, was how, like, between the shepherds and like Pike, how he was very dismissive of them at first, and like, and like treating them as zealots, and were they zealots? It was a cool, interesting discussion that came about from that. And I still think if she's up for it and she's able to, that we should get a little cameo from Uhura's grandmother, and she should be played by Nichelle Nichols. Like, that's just like a little wish of mine.
Yeah, if they had made the show like 5 or 6 years ago, I think that would have been possible.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, who knows? One never knows what can happen.
I
Yeah.
know for a fact she's never acting again, but
All right. Well,
Oh, sorry. Can I say some last things about? So I really liked that Ahura was very unsure about herself, and I think Hammer. I suppose I'm jumping a bit forwards, but whenever I'm going to be thinking of Uhura now, and her journey in Starfleet, I'm going to be thinking of Hammer and his death, because I think Hammer's death and his relationship really molded her and made her decide to stay with Starfleet.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah, and this was such a great relationship. Like, you see the start of it here, and what it becomes later. The Hammer Uhura. What did she call it? Uhammer? No,
Hemora.
Hemura. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that she like combined their names in show. Like, that was like a cute little a thing. That was really nice. But yeah, let's move on to the next episode, which is the Ghosts of Elyria. And go ahead and start this one off, Fathery.
I really liked this. I think I actually liked it more than the last two. The mainly because, like I was mentioning before about focusing on, smaller characters. This is the first time, kind of the only time really, we get a lot of Una spotlight. But it teases some of her backstory that I'm sure we'll explore more in season 2. We also got like Hemmer doing cool stuff here. We got Mbenga doing a lot of stuff. We learned about the whole thing with his daughter. And so, yeah, it kind of took the spotlight off of Spock and Pike. And Uhura got a lot to do in the second episode, and it kind of showed us some of these other people. It was an interesting mystery. I didn't see it coming. It was kind of had some of those horror vibes, with Spike, with Pot. With Pike and Spock. Everyone messes that up. With
Freudian
Pike and Spock down on the planet. It was kind of that idea of like, don't judge a book by its cover, going all the way back to like Devil in the Dark with the
Right.
Horta, where you're like, oh, these freaky things, we thought they were ghosts. Like, no, they were just trying to help us. I mean, that was kind of the story with the Gorn at one point, and Strange New Worlds has kind of undercut that, unfortunately. But yeah, I really liked Ghosts of Elyria. Even if everyone makes fun of how I say Elyria.
Is it Illyria or Illyria? You say Illyria, I say Illyria. I like this quote too. Joel points out this. This is my favorite line from the episode. I can sense that expression, Una. Oh, I know. It's really funny. Uh, Braxton, what do you remember about this episode? What do you remember about? What did you think of this one?
So the thing that I remember most about this episode was when Una picked up Hammer and was carrying him through the hall, dude, and it looked like a dummy. I totally loved that shot, dude. Like I rewound that like 3 times to go ahead and look at it.
I
I
remember that
also hmm
too. I
like
think
in the
that was the thing we saw in Chicago, by the way, at
Yeah, I do
the
too.
yeah, like I think she was carrying that. Like
hmm hmm this also is one of the episodes that really builds on the relationship between Pike and Spock. They were like huddled up together. They thought that, you know, this was going to be like their last, their last breaths. They were like huddled together, and then the Illyrians were protecting them from the storm. But I did think this was a good episode. I really enjoy Rebecca Romaine's performance as number one. So I liked hearing more of her story. This is also the episode where we're introduced to is it
Rukia.
Rukia? Yeah, and that like crazy story, and like,
Lots
yeah,
of speaking of debates and discussions, lots of interesting debates came out of that. Our friend Marcelo was ready to throw both Una and Dr. Mbenga in the brig for like months, and he wanted to terminate Rukia. I was like, "What?" I remember that
Oh, surely
discussion.
not.
I was like, "Oh my."
Mhm. But yeah, I did think that this was a one of the stronger episodes for me, and I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, it's cool to see, and giving a new dimension to this character that we really didn't know much about, but that we all had like a lot of thoughts or things about it. Robbie, what about you?
Um, I think I wasn't very interested in the plot. Um, Virus Star Trek episodes don't particularly appeal to me, and so I think the character stuff was fantastic in this episode, and it was wonderful that basically number one, who is a character that was basically defined by being a Starfleet officer in the short time we saw her in TOS. Um, it's such a shame that she's so proud to be a Starfleet officer, but she has to hide her own identity out of fear because of Starfleet's own regulations and her abilities to burn up that virus. They're advantageous, and Starfleet is basically blocking her out, blocking innocent people out because they're scared and they're cowardly. Um, and they have good
Well,
reason to
yeah,
be afraid, but
and
it's
and
a
that was
very
a neat.
good.
That was sorry to interrupt you, but you just reminded me that was a neat moment at the end with her and Laan, where she's expressing how why what the mindset that Illyrians look at genetics as like instead of terraforming planets, they terraform themselves, and I really dug that. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No,
carry
no,
on.
that's cool. But it's also, I think it's great that they cut out basically Pike and Spock in this episode on this really uninteresting side plot, which eventually ties into the main plot. But the fact that the Illyrians de-engineered themselves just to get into the Federation, and that caused their demise was just, it's a horrible thing to think about. And I really liked that Pike was so open to discussion, as he has been in Discovery, and so collaborative. And I also think it was really nice to see Una empathize with Mabenga. She was the perfect person to find out about his secret as someone who had been harboring her own secret. And I think it's understandable that she wouldn't tell um, Pike about Mabenga because she's just had this whole big secret. She can understand his perspective and I was ready to be disappointed in that plot line with Mbenga. I thought, is this going to be a really dramatic, silly way for him to be demoted? But it was that storyline was handled so well and in such a weird way in the Elysian Kingdom that I thought was perfect.
Right on. Sorry, I lost my voice there for a second. Cake is Eternal is saying other great line from this episode. Whatever tweaks your freak. That was awesome. And then I'm arming us with knowledge. That was really cool too. Very
Yeah, that was
Spock.
great.
It was a good moment in the episode. So yeah, it was a really good episode. I agree. And who knew? I actually really didn't think that this would come back to haunt Una. And someone on Twitter pointed out in a thread in a discussion that I was like a part of, because I was like, who ratted on Una? Well, remember she in this scene in particular, she's like overriding all these like restricted files. So the computer probably has a protocol that sends this telemetry back to headquarters at some point saying like, oh, all these restricted files were accessed and an inquiry must have started. So like maybe Una, in her desperation to find a solution here, may have undone herself. So yeah, let's get that drumhead trial in season 2 where Admiral April
if they do that
if they do
we still don't know for sure.
That's what I'm saying. Let's get it. That's what I want. We'll talk more about it in the hopes for next season section. But yeah, I thought this was a powerful episode, and Jill's pointing out here like, maybe this was about the downside of assimilation as a strategy. Not sure. I think referring to like, how like when you come to a culture or a country, oftentimes you're expected to assimilate to those the standards or the mores and things like that of that society. So here's a situation where the Illyrians were so desperate to join the Federation, and this is something that we see all over the world. Sadly, the United States of America isn't the shining city on the hill as it once was thought of. Maybe it never was, but people do sacrifice a lot to get here. I won't go into it deeply, but I'm an immigrant, and my parents and family sacrificed a lot to come to this country too. So maybe change some of their cultural beliefs and things like that. So it's an interesting topic to ponder a little bit further. But yeah, so any other thoughts on this episode before we move on? All right, Memento Mori. Kick us off on this one, Braxton.
Oh, thank you, Starfleet boy. So I was just gonna say that Memento Mori is actually my favorite of the whole season.
Ooh, right on.
I felt a profound sense of tension throughout the whole episode. We knew our crew would survive, but it's like, ooh, how they are so in danger. Every time they seem to have figured something out, like something else happens, and they have a setback. I also really appreciated La'an visualizing people that she think are dead. I have people who have died in my life that I still visualize them. So that's something that I really identified with. Um, and I thought it was so cool that we never actually saw the Gorn. I think
Yeah.
that really contributed to the tension that we were feeling. And like, yeah, dude, like they just barely escaped. They just like played dead. Like they just survived it. This was my absolute favorite episode of the season.
Right on. Fathery.
This was one of the best of the season. It might even be like my second or third favorite of the entire season. And I thought it was cool. Here we're getting a La'an episode and kind of focusing more on her. The way that they reused the Gorn it was executed great. I thought it was very suspenseful. I liked the whole like submarine battle type thing to it. It had some balance of terror vibes. More of those to come later. Also reminded me a lot of that Deep Space Nine episode Starship Down, where the Defiant is playing that cat and mouse game with the Jem'Hadar warships inside of a gas giant. Did something very similar here. Just the thing to me was like, I always liked the idea of the Gorn not being a black and white total villainous creature that just wants to kill and nothing else. I liked the moral of the story in Arena, where we learn there's actually more to the Gorn than they're not just total monsters. So if Strange New Worlds has done anything to disappoint me in season 1, it might be that it does feel like they've undercut that. I know that like chronologically Arena will come later, and so it kind of does have the final word, but I do wish the stuff kind of fit and linked up a little bit more. But other than that, yeah, like I really loved the execution of this episode.
Robbie.
I think this is funny because I was talking about the differing of genres, and I think my favorite episodes are this one and Equality of Mercy, and they're both very similar in that they're kind of, the kind of action packed, tense, dramatic episodes that also have a big character focus. I remember reading an article before the show released where Anson Mount said his favorite episode was episode 4, and that he loved what the director did with that episode. And so I kept that in my head, and I kept thinking, okay, just wait till episode 4. That's going to be the great one. And it's a really great episode. I love the touch of world building, and that we get essentially Starfleet Remembrance Day. Instead of poppies, they wear badges. That was
it was really
cool to ground the kind of the setting and the world building. And although I don't think La'an's growth for her character focus was the most groundbreaking stuff, I do think it was very well played, and it was very effective that she was basically the resident Gorn expert who could kind of help the crew a bit. And I also loved that Anson Mount gave such a great performance when he had lost crew members, and he had to just take that in and go forwards because he's a captain, and he has to do that. And yeah, I love the Wrath of Khan vibes and the sciencey stuff mixed in with it. I think it could have been nice if we had focused a bit more on La'an's mental state, but I don't think the episode really had time for that. And I thought it was really creative and really effective that they never gave us a look at the Gorn. They just showed through basically ship shots and bridge scenes, and their effective tactics, and that they would destroy one of our own ships just to locate the Enterprise. Just how threatening they are was all fantastic.
I agree. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, this was a good episode for me too. Folks in the audience are talking about the thrilling escape scene at the end with the
Pike
black
maneuver.
hole. Yeah, the Pike maneuver, and yeah, there's so many great nuggets in this episode. I love the discussion over on Text Track that you and Dave had about this episode. I remember that one in particular because Dave was like really focused on the resemblance to, like, what was it, Aliens, right? Like the
Yeah, he got carried away with that. But
he did, but it was still interesting.
He was the first one to bring that up. Yeah,
yeah, he was. Yeah, the first one I heard too, and I really dug that. And I totally saw that a lot of what he was saying. I was seeing that in there as well. But yeah, so I mean, even the little girl, right? Like, and her, what was her name? It wasn't Newt, but it was something Fig. Yeah, it was something similar, like a short name like that. And, but overall, yeah, just a spectacular episode. I love the like the moment where La'an is realizing what is going on, and she's standing in the bridge, the walkway or whatever connecting the two ships, and she's frozen with like, I get that, you know what I mean, like something, it's like bringing up this like trauma of her past, and she's just like probably lost in so many thoughts in that moment, and Una has to like, and the chaos of that, after the Gorn ship like attacks, and the chaos afterwards was really neat, and Una gets injured really badly, and it had that like really touching moment at the end with where she insists on giving the plasma to another, to, was it Christine or something like that, right? Christina, I think, Fathery, or anyone, I don't remember. But anyways,
yeah, Ensign Christina.
Yeah, she insists on giving away the plasma to save someone else, and gives an order, and then at the end, that like just the way it was shot, like where Una comes to and she like traces the bloodline back, and there it is attached to Dr. Mbenga.
It's a cool Mbenga moment.
Yeah, it was a very cool, and he just kind of looks at her like, yeah, I did what you said. It was so good. But yeah, again, just another, these character moments, like, these might be episodic format. This might be an episodic format, but there's such a great through line of these characters growing throughout the episode and having interactions that are very meaningful and stuff like that. And this was certainly one of them. And then, of course, the solution to the problem and the Spock mind meld, and La'an remembering her brother, was very touching, and that he had ciphered out the way the Gorn communicate, perhaps, and things like that, just from observation. And then that was cool too, to get some, I like the idea. Jill proposed that perhaps the Gorn are, like the Zindi, maybe they have many subspecies, and I kind of, who knows what they're gonna do, but I kind of like that idea. I'm kind of personally leaning towards the idea that we're seeing a different, we're gonna get to really see what the Gorn are like. And I do agree with Fathery. I hope that both Kiva Goldsman and I think Henry Alonso Meyer have said they wanted a villain that is just relentless and unfeeling and unkind. There's nothing redeemable about them. But I really hope they change their mind on that as the show progresses, because I agree with you on that point. Fathery, any last thoughts on this episode? Audience, also, thanks for sharing your thoughts. They're really wonderful. Keep them coming. Go ahead, Robbie.
I think that this could have been, it could have easily been, a soulless space battle, but it weaves character really well. I think that La'an's flashbacks weren't as interesting as they could have been. They felt, I mean, they weren't bad or anything, but they weren't particularly interesting to me. I don't know what could have improved that, but I kind of wanted to get back to the Gorn when she was here. I liked that we saw medical having difficulty, with the ship systems low on power, and some medical equipment not working, and the fact that they had to, they just had to work it out together, just like they did in Children of the Comet. They had a good working dynamic, and it was really cool to see them use that soul photon torpedo and to carefully land it and believe that they were winning, cool, and then the Gorn one-up them again. Yeah.
I love that tronified torpedo too. It was cool. I imagine that's those lines is where the energy like bleeds out of when torpedoes like go full power, when they're active. So it comes out of those little lines, and it's like, they turn into those red fireballs or whatever, which is pretty neat. So that's how I kind of saw it. Let's move on to a huge favorite of the fan community, which is Spock of Muck. This was like kind of a treat, a delightful episode. Kick us off on this one, Fathery.
This one was a lot of fun. In live action Star Trek, we hadn't really had fun episodes that were just kind of like a goofy idea. Like the original series had like the Trouble with Tribbles, or like the Next Generation did stuff like A Fistful of Datas. Like all the shows traditionally would do that, but in modern live action Trek, we would get fun scenes. We would get stuff like when Michael Burnham was like high on drugs being interrogated by the
that was really
Orion
fun.
and
Yes.
Andorian, like
Right.
we would get fun moments like Picard and Elnor and Rios having to like go undercover in a Stardust City rag, but we never got like an entire like fun story, an entire fun episode, because those shows always have those bigger arcs. So it was just a lot of fun. I mean, I don't know what else to say to get back to that. And the recreation of Amok Time, the way that they rebuilt all the Vulcan sets and props and everything looked. Oh, and then the music from Nami Malama, just that was all a total delight. And I love T'Pring. I never knew I was such a big fan of T'Pring until they fleshed her out on Strange New Worlds. So yeah, I'm all about what's her name? Sandu, something Sandu, who plays
Gia.
Gia Sandu. Thank you,
yeah.
Robbie, who has done a magnificent job as T'Pring, and I'm so invested in this this relationship, even though we know it's going to end in tragedy. But yeah, that's where I stand on Spock of Muck.
Right on. Stress Free K's here. Hey, howdy y'all. Want to play Enterprise Bingo? That was funny too. And the Scorch and Una and La'an just being like out of touch like managers, like it was like that was really funny. And also shout out to the Sleepy Craftsman, who's also known I think as the Sleepy Trekkie, and check out his TikTok as well. I really enjoy your TikToks. Thanks for coming to the stream. But yeah, good point. Oh my gosh, Jeremiah's here. Look at all our familiar friends here. Jeremiah was a Squirtle. Nice to see you. Robbie, what did you think of Spock of Muck?
I think I had a Star Trek orgasm during the beginning of this episode, because I will never get tired of Spock as a character. As much as I love the fact that we're getting new characters, or no, old characters fleshed out more, Spock going on this comedic romp that is so opposite to his character was just perfect. The modern technology, faithfully reimagining Vulcan was great. Just the beginning with that music made me smile. And it was really interesting to see Spock conflicted between his human and Vulcan half, which you think would get boring after seeing it so much in Star Trek. But I don't know. I think they managed to make it a bit different, a bit interesting, and it's not. It doesn't feel like a cliche romance that he has with T'Pring, at least not to me. I think the fact that he is having this nightmare that his human appearance, his human half, is basically opposing T'Pring, gives us a whole insight into his character currently, that he believes he must be, only Vulcan to please T'Pring. And it also wonderfully it is a great excuse to, homage Amok Time. But then, of course, T'Pring is actually then offering him, human intimacy in the Serene Squall. So he was just getting it all mixed up. He was getting it all wrong. Because I think, as such a logical character who's still finding himself, love is eluding him a bit. And Gia Sandu, as Favre said, is so perfect at embodying the discreetness of T'Pring, and the affection, just in her eye glances towards Spock. Yeah,
she's such an interesting character, and it's really neat. We've seen like examples of Vulcans now throughout the series as highlights. T'Pol, of course, has a lot of screen time, and she has a really interesting story. But T'Pring, to me, is so quintessentially Vulcan. She is just such a, to me, she is it's exciting to watch her.
Yeah, she's unapologetically Vulcan.
Yeah, exactly. It's really, really cool. Even Sarek's kind of a rebel. He's out there marrying a human. He's having adopting kids everywhere.
Yeah, T'Pol got a little weird. T'Pol was experimenting with Trip and stuff. As far as like a true pure Vulcan, it's T'Pring and Tuvok are like two of the best
Yeah,
examples.
exactly. That's a great point. And so yeah, T'Pring's bringing a new perspective on Vulcans, which I really dig. And you can see that there is sensitivity, there is empathy, there is like not having emotions doesn't mean you can't be understanding, that you can't it looks like you're whispering to Robbie, which is hilarious, probably. But it's like I know you're not, but that's what it looks like. I'm like, oh, what are you telling Robbie? But yeah, great points there, Robbie. What about you, Braxton?
So, so I thought this episode started out really, really beautifully. I loved seeing the recreation of, that scene from, what is it, a mock time?
Yes.
Yeah, I absolutely loved seeing the recreation of that. I loved that this is our first taste of Spawn. You know,
Yes,
um,
thank you for
hmm
mentioning Stan, my
hmm
episode
hmm
husband,
you
for
know,
this
um,
episode.
No. Doesn't show up till later.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. That wasn't this episode. You're right.
so we didn't actually see Spawn like standing like in the back
No,
He's
no,
in
here.
no.
the
He's
he's in the
right. It's in
Sybok
Serene Squall.
episode.
Yeah, he's in
Yeah.
Serene Squall. Yeah, you're right.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Stan was not in the background here, but I got
But anyway,
excited because he might as
mhm,
well have been. But you're right, because Stan, I know what you're thinking, because Stan is in Amok Time, so
yeah,
that's correct. Yeah, but anyways,
yeah.
carry on.
hmm but yeah, I thought that was beautifully recreated. I thought I loved when they did their incantation and all the candles blew out and they were switched. I remember
That's
thinking like,
cool.
"Ooh, wow, that was some powerful magic." Um,
Vulcan mysticism. Yep.
And the acting by the actor who played Spock and the actress who plays T'Pring was really good. They were like doing like each other's mannerisms. There was like some nuance in their performance that I really liked. We did get to see shirtless Ethan Peck in this. Got to see those big pecs. But yeah, dude, I
Ethan's pecs. I think that's the joke that everyone makes. By the way, Ethan Peck was wearing a shirt that I own. He's like totally watching Starfleet Boy and jocking my style, but it's all right. I
Mm,
love it.
mhm, mhm, mm. But this was a strong episode for me overall. This is kind of like it's not like in my top. It's kind of like in the mid pack glut. But I did think this was a strong episode.
I really enjoyed this episode. I had a lot of fun watching it, but also one of the things that like really touched me, you guys talked a lot about the T'Pring Spock stuff, and I agree with everything, but I really, really, really loved all the diplomacy with the species, the species that was like, what were they? Uh,
Rogovians.
yeah, but what was their thing? They're
They
like,
imitated
yeah, but it's
others around.
empathy, but something like extreme. I forget how they refer.
Radical.
Radical empathy. Thank you. Yeah, the radical empathy. That was like an interesting thing. I love how like I love how Pike sussed it out and figured it out. I love that moment where like T'Pring is trying her best to be Spock, and like it's just not working out. Plus the glorious kind of majestic recreation or of Starbase One with the habitat pods. It was like a rinky dink little thing in the back, like that got like two or three, like maybe not even a minute of screen time on Discovery, and here they've turned it into this like glorious place that's like really interesting, like it's a cool place. And again, talking about world building, right? Like they talked about how like after the eugenics wars or whatever it was, that they grew these things, and that the forest thrived so much that they couldn't bring them back to Earth, so they just kept them in these in these pods. And again, there's so many little character moments. Dr. Mbenga fly fishing, for example, and like there's the whole story with Chapel and Spock as well. So and also let's not forget Ortega's, which we want more of. And there's just so much in this episode. Like it was great. Like it was a cool thing. and then that glorious scene where we see the solar ship. That's like, to me, like, that's the kind of stuff, like, I'm not a very like hugely vocal ship guy, but I just love the ships in Star Trek, and that's a beautiful new addition with the solar ship, and it just echoed or evoked memories of one of the best episodes of Deep Space Nine, where Jake and Ben go and rebuild the solar sail ship. What's that one called?
Explorers.
The Bajorans, and how the Bajorans like were actually like had these like warp lanes or whatever, like these high speed lanes that the ships would fall into, and so they actually could make it all the way across great distances on a solar sail ship when humans were just like in the Bronze Age or whatever. So this is really cool, and it reminded me of that stuff, and it was neat to see just like in with modern special effects and stuff like that, which just looks so spectacular. So yeah, that was a really cool moment. This is a great episode, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. It was like really awesome. It's amazing how they packed so much into it, and yet it was paced really beautifully and worked really well.
Yeah, all the episodes are pretty dense. They do a really good job packing a lot of good stuff into all of them.
Absolutely. Oh, cool. Jill says didn't miss all of Spock of Muck conversation. Yay, so I didn't realize you stepped away. The Enterprise in the background during the negotiations, yeah, that was so good. Like, just seeing it there, that was really, really amazing. Oh, your Wi-Fi went out. I see. Let's see, Jill. Okay. Is this the episode with the solar sails? Yes, it is, Jill. Jill, get caught up. No, I'm just kidding. Teasing. By the way, audience, if you do feel like you're lagging behind, there's a little live button that you can see on YouTube. If you press that live button, it'll bring you right to the current point in the stream. Just a little tip there. Shall we go on?
Sorry, can I?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Say
Say
some
another
last
thought.
things?
Yeah.
I think that Star Trek isn't typically good at romantic relationships, and we all know how this one plays out. But I think this episode really made me sad for the fact that they're not going to end up in a relationship. It's a bit sad for Spock, this potential, because especially since we see T'Pring actually kind of be in Spock's footsteps, and
she's trying, right? She's like really trying hard to understand the human side of Spock, even going so far as like reading sex education books, or like not even like just like romance novels or something. I forget what she said. It was like interesting.
So to see her be so kind of cold toward Spock and Amok time is quite disheartening for me.
Well, by then Spock meets his true love, so it's not a big deal.
Who's that?
Well, when he's so happy to see someone at the end of that episode.
McCoy?
Cheeky lad. But anyways, let's go on to this heartbreaking episode. Lift us who are suffering, cannot reach. You want to start this one off, Robbie?
I think this was the most TOS episode in its structure, in the fact that they had to, in how dark it was. I loved that they were so bold to make a wee child that had been killed. I think that Alora she was quite twisted as a character, but she's very understandable. She's relatable because Western society, our clothes, so much thrives on the slavery and exploitation of people, and so it was great to make us think about that, and to get to know the first servant. I think it was quite interesting that Laura said that we look unlike Starfleet, you have your problems, but we actually celebrate it. We look at it. We acknowledge it. But she didn't actually fill in the first servant what this was going to be about, so that doesn't really ring as true. He was shocked at what he saw. Um, I really enjoyed the romance between Pike and Allura and the conflict that introduced. I think the chemistry he had with Allura was much better than with Captain Patel. Um, and I liked that Mabenga was struggling with his daughter again, and he was trying to hide that secret and trying to find a cure, but they couldn't give him one because they're such a closeted society that really has a guise of generosity and paradise when it has a horrible underbelly.
Totally. Braxton.
This was my least favorite episode.
It was a hard one,
You,
right?
we I didn't trust Alora. So for me, I didn't really feel the chemistry between Alora and Captain Pike. Um, but he was deceived by her, and he made some poor decisions here. For me, this was like a chicks in the armor kind of episode where I was seeing weaknesses on the part of Captain Pike. Um, you know, this I think of this as like the kids as batteries kind of episode. Yeah, we did get some more development of the Rukia story when the boy, had activated her program. So that was kind of interesting. But this was actually my least favorite episode.
It was a tough one. Fathery.
I'll just keep it real quick and say I like seeing the traditional Star Trek moral conundrum on display here. And yeah, there is just a hell of a gut punch at the end, And I thought it was bold of the show that they would show like, okay, what if our characters, what if they lose? What if they don't figure it out? They don't solve the problem, and yeah, so we got to see that. We got to see that on display here. Also, the locations that they used to shoot, Majalis,
Yeah,
and
Majalis.
the special effects, the way they created like the floating city, all of that looked really cool. So I liked that.
Yeah, and I like Jill pointed out evoked the cloud minders, and sadly we had to delay our discussion, but otherwise it would have lined up perfectly for TOS and Strange New Worlds that week. But yeah, it was an interesting episode. I was profoundly moved by this episode. When I was watching it, I was saying no a lot at the end, like no, like no, 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 especially because the performer, I think his name is Ian. He was
Ian
his
Ho.
father. Ian Ho. His father was on Text Trek in the live chat for the
He was
discussion
in
of
the
this
live
episode.
audience, yeah.
Yeah,
Not for this episode though. For the other one that his other kid was in.
Oh yeah, the daughter.
We're gonna
That's
get to in a
right.
moment.
That's right. That's right. You're right. You're absolutely right. The other Gorn episode. These poor kids, they have to like go through so much trauma in their episodes. But yeah, no, it was especially heartbreaking to see that this society would like find the brightest kid, basically, when like the first servant was such an awesome individual, like that touching moment he had with Rukia, like he was like able to figure out really complex things, he was able to impress Spock, all that stuff. Like you're like, wow, this kid's great, like he's gonna grow up to be a great leader, because that's where the episode's kind of like making you think, like what, like maybe he'll do some great things in the Federation, and then oh, he's just a battery. and he's gonna get burnt out like the previous battery, and it was just heartbreaking, heartbreaking, heart-wrenching. I could see why, and I remember folks online were saying like, I wish there was like a warning, like this episode like really traumatized me, and it's true. And it's good actually that reaction, because we shouldn't that's how we should feel about kids being exploited and used in this manner. So I think that was another thing that I think the original series does so well is like creating these like what you said, Father, like these like episodes that make you really think and like and again you can't always win, right? Like there's some things that you don't succeed at, and so this was a heartbreaker for Pike, and it was just again performances, everything. I don't know if this is like they're all tens basically for me, but I don't know if this is my favorite episode because I think the finale is my favorite, but maybe this might be like my second favorite or something like that. So, but yeah, very very powerful episode. I do hope we get more of this kind of stuff. Not exactly this kind of stuff, but more stuff like this. And I think we will in season 2. So yeah, any other thoughts on this episode before we go on?
I think this episode, it would be there's great potential to come back to Majalis in a future season and maybe see if they've changed their ways and they have a more sustainable method of power, and to see if Pike can somehow to see Pike's conflict with Allura, if he can resolve that. If she,
I don't think I hate her.
I know, but I love the conflict. I love the conflict that's there because of that, and I love I love
she
the
should
fact
fall off of the platform into the lava as far as I'm concerned.
it's the same for Ducat though.
What's that?
It's the same for Gal Ducat though, and
Yeah, it's
Cisco
true.
still kind of. I think that this episode was great because it was a bit darker. It reminded me of some of DS9's darker stuff and how it kind of darker stuff can really hit you and surprise you, and it can be very impactful and good in a way to make you reflect and to make you explore really interesting issues. Because if you're exploring something in a light-hearted way, sometimes it doesn't, or not in a light-hearted way, but if you don't push something to its full extent, then you don't get the same surprise factor. You don't get the same shock that really just goes for your system, and you're like, that makes you think about it. And yeah, I thought this was a really good ending, a really good gut punch.
Yeah, right on. I like this last comment here on the subject from Jill, which is, at least the beautiful woman in Cloudminders had the change of heart, so these people are worse. I mean, they are worse, but it is at the end of the day, like she did say they tried. I don't think they tried hard enough, but she did say they've been trying to find a solution, and so.
Oh, sorry, I completely forgot something, but you please go before I
Oh yeah,
say
no, I was just gonna say that she did at least. I guess they made an attempt.
You don't know what to say on this one.
Yeah, go ahead, Robbie.
I also, when Pike woke up and I think he was on Alora's bed, after he had saw the dead body, I thought, oh my God, are they going to be bold enough that he wakes up and he was too late and that child died down there and they just went through it? Knocked him out or something, and now Pike's up here and she's going to say, we went through with it, and that will be the gut punch for Pike. And I actually, as dark and disappointing or as hard to watch as that might have been, I actually would have really liked the impact of this kid that we get to know, and he dies at the end.
Well, I don't like. What do you mean, like
the first servant? This one,
like that he dies, but that would have caused the whole thing to collapse and their city to fall into the. He has to be alive at the end, but a battery basically plugged into the thing, which I think is a worse fate than death actually for this poor kid.
Oh, I was getting confused. I didn't realize it would be so quick. I thought it would be quicker, the process.
Oh no, I think they said the previous first servant was like what was like a few years, right? Like
They
six.
don't
okay.
say they don't say the exact time period.
Oh,
But
okay.
they do say that they suffer while they're in there.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I don't know if they look for a new one every year, Robbie, or like whatever. It's like yeah, they got a bunch of first servants lined up, ready to go. Shall we now talk about the Serene Squall? With
Yeah, we got
let's-
4 more of these to knock out. So.
Yeah, we're almost there. Actually, we're doing pretty good on timing because we got to get done a little bit before.
We got 35 minutes, but I think
less
we can do it.
Less than that. Let's do it. But real quick, some comments before we get to this. Let's see. I hope Robbie can attend more chats in the future. I forgot how insightful and smart he is. Hey, Robbie, look at that. You got a nice little compliment. Robbie, we're grooming you to be the first servant to power YouTube. So pretty soon we're going to plug you into YouTube.
You weren't supposed to tell him that yet.
Oh, shit. Sorry. Sorry, that was a really bad joke. But yes, Robbie, we love having you on. We hope you can come to more. It's a gift whenever you can come. Thank you.
Well, I've got next Sunday off, so I'm happy to join
Excellent.
a QoS
excellent.
discussion or anything that's going on.
Super. Let's do it. Uncle Arthur says, we all believe what we are told. Most would still believe in Santa if they were never told he wasn't real. Same as some still believe in religious figures because they are never told it's a mythology. Good point.
Santa's real, isn't he?
Yeah, I kind of believe in Santa too, but anyways, that's neither here or there. Who wants to kick us off on the Serene Squall?
Dude, I will.
Go do it.
So I thought that this was well acted. Some people said that they didn't appreciate the over the top nature of the second part of the actress who plays Doctor. What's her name? Doctor what?
Aspen.
Aspen,
Dr.
yeah.
Aspen. They didn't enjoy the second part of after Dr. Aspen's turn. But the thing is, I totally trusted the actress. I totally trusted Dr. Aspen. So I was so surprised to see the turn. I thought when this episode aired, I was like, "Ooh, wow! Look at Strange New Worlds taking like big swings as far as like representation goes with casting a trans actress." I thought that was really impactful. I really appreciated that about it. And then at the end of our episode, we got Cyborg, so I thought that was really cool, and then
so
that
good.
led me to the journey of seeing Star Trek V. But I thought that this was a fantastic episode. This is like in my top 3.
Speaking of which, Braxton watched Star Trek V and then Trek on the Tube. Myself and I gathered on Trek on the Tube's Trek Chat and talked about it. So if y'all are interested, go check that out. It's both on YouTube and wherever you find your podcasts. But yeah, great points. Father, what about you?
I'll agree with Joel's comment that you're currently highlighting, that Jesse James Keitel knocked it out the park in this episode. I thought that they did a great job both as Aspen and as Angel. I thought that Ethan Peck did great. We kind of see him fall for Aspen, and then we see him have his heart crushed at the end. I was over the moon, just super excited when I saw that back of Cybok's head for about all of 2.5 seconds. That was just possibly the highlight of the entire show for me. I love that so much. My problem with this episode was with Remy, the Orion pirate. I thought he was just like a little too goofy. I couldn't take him serious as a threat. But I loved pretty much everything else, especially the love triangle stuff with Chapel and T'Pring and Spock, which can be kind of corny and kind of cliche and hard to pull off, but they found a way to make that very compelling. I think a lot of that just goes to the actors. So, and I'm very, very invested in all 3 of those characters and the dynamics between them going forward after this.
Right on. How about you, Robbie?
I feel like this was maybe the weakest episode for me. I still really enjoyed it, but I think, I don't know, I felt like it didn't have as much density as some of the other episodes. I thought Dr. Aspen, Jesse James Keitel, was fantastic. She really went over the top in a really great way that fit with the tone of the episode, and I'd love to see her back with Cyborg shenanigans. Um, but she was clearly having a blast while filming it, which is great. And I also loved the further kind of introspection at Spock, and it was really interesting that Dr. Aspen Dr. Aspen is non-binary, and Dr. Aspen was trying to tell Spock that he doesn't need to be human or Vulcan. He can be more than the sum of those parts, and he can, he doesn't need to let one dominate the other, and he can become something more. He can be a hybrid of both cultures to make something new. That was a really great message that was um, really well woven into the episode. It was continuing his character journey, and then it was also great that Spock basically used Dr. Aspen's strategy against him, because Dr. Aspen had been basically not quite lying to Spock. They were saying these twisting stories a wee bit, but they didn't really lie to Spock. And then Spock learned from that and didn't exactly lie to Dr. Aspen and to Pring when he was saying about this, saying about falling for Nurse Chapel, which I'm not sure. Maybe he was, and if he was, then he was using Dr. Aspen's tactics against him, which is really great. And even if he doesn't feel that way, is really interesting because Nurse Chapel does feel that way.
Yeah, and I think Spock maybe kind of there is something changing in him. Definitely that experience kind of like, I thought it was interesting how at the end of that episode he says to Pring, "You know me well," and then he also says to Nurse Chapel, "You know me well," and it was like there's like an in a Spock manner, there's like an intimacy to that. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading something different from what was intended, but yeah.
I don't think the mutiny subplot was particularly interesting. I think I could have done with more build up on the ship to make it feel a bit more intense, because the mutiny kind of was quite goofy. It felt a bit like a lower deck story, and it went a bit too perfectly. Whereas this story was a lot more interesting to me, and I don't think we got enough from it. I don't have too much to say, but it was a really good episode.
Thank you. I love this episode a lot. It's just so much fun. And like Father said, the Cybok thing, of course, like like is the nice cherry on top that I wasn't expecting, and I'm glad I didn't know about that. I was just going apeshit over it because I wanted that so badly. Like I've wanted it since Discovery. Like I as soon as I found out that Sarek and Spock and Michael, like that whole family was in here, I kept asking, "Where's Cybok?" I think I even like, "What's Cybok up to? Are we gonna get Cybok?" So it looks like we are gonna get Cybok, and I'm just so thrilled about it because he's just truly, whatever you think of Star Trek Five, Lawrence Luckenbill really brings that character to life. And I think Father, I might be misquoting you, but you say something about like how he's one of the most original adversaries.
The Trek movie, especially these days where everyone's just a ripoff of Khan.
Yeah, exactly.
That was like the only thing we learned about Star Trek Picard season 3 yesterday that makes me
a little nervous, perhaps
a little unhappy, but yeah, Cybok was a very unique foe for our heroes to face.
And I share Jill's sentiment. The space pirates totally worked for me. I liked Strange New Worlds introducing their version of camp. Camp is definitely a part of Star Trek, more so in TOS, I think, than maybe Voyager has some camp. now that I'm thinking about it, like more camp than others, but definitely TOS had a lot of good camp. And so I feel like Stranger Worlds is putting their own spin on it, and like just that scene with the mutiny and the fact that the ship has
Yeah.
like a wheel and like
I'm with Robbie. I didn't like that. This would have been my least favorite episode
had it not been for
if it wasn't for
Cybok.
Cybok.
Interesting, yeah.
Because
Well,
I didn't like I hated the Remy Orion stuff.
well, it's good to have differing opinions. But yeah, for me, it all worked. I thought it was funny. I love the mutiny. I love the food stuff, like that. I love that the food stuff is just such a thing with Pike. Like it's such a cool thing to put.
We should talk about the next episode because it's actually my favorite of the entire season.
Well, just to wrap up on this episode, all I want to say is that yeah, the also it was pointed out in the audience, this is where Stan comes in, and I loved that. There's just so many great nuggets in this episode, and I agree with everyone's sentiment that Jesse James Keitel crushed it. I feel it was a really neat way to introduce audiences to the concepts of non-binary and gender and kind of like bringing people up to date on like gender theory and things like that. It was just like wonderful. So I think this is a great episode for that kind of stuff too. So yeah, let's carry on. So here, let me put us on the side for a second here because I gotta show my boy my man
The wrong episode.
Oh wait, what happened?
That's from All Those Who Wonder.
Yeah.
Oh, what episode did I skip?
You skipped the Elysian Kingdom, my favorite episode.
Oh, damn. Hold on, I'll quickly Starfleet Boy is gonna quickly get a slide up for the I do have a banner for it. So hang on a second, Starfleet Boy, we'll do that. But since this is your favorite episode, Father, kick us off on your impressions of it.
Okay, I'll be super quick so I don't take up too much time. But yeah, this was my favorite episode. I loved Mbenga being the star of an episode. Again, Pike and Spock take a back seat. They just play like two of the smaller characters in the story. Uhura really got to chew the scenery and eat it up as the big bad, larger than life villain character. Hemmer, of course, having the time of his life as the wizard. Everyone loved that. Abracadabra, one of the best moments in the show. And then the story with Rukia, there was a payoff to that arc. Made a lot of people nervous when they introduced that in Ghosts of Elyria, but I felt that it was they earned the emotions at the end, and okay, so I couldn't save my daughter, but she can exist here in this nebula and get to have like all her fantasies come to life. I guess I got to settle for that, but he still had to say goodbye to her, so that was all touching to me. And and Christina Chong getting to be, instead of being like the hardened little badass, she had to be like the princess. So yeah, so it was just and Ortega's stole the show too. So yeah, so much to love in this one. It was a lot of fun.
Right on. And what about you, Braxton?
So I thought this was a fun episode. I'll remember this as the dress episode. When we went to Mission Chicago, we saw the dress that Christina Chong wore in this episode, and I remember thinking like, "Ooh, wow! Like, who's gonna wear this dress? Like, what's the episode? Like, what's like the circumstance where someone will wear this kind of dress in Star Trek?" And here we are. And Luna was wearing a pretty dress as well. I feel like somebody else. Oh, Rukia's dress was absolutely amazing. How the dress like looked like the art from what Star Trek Beyond, where it had like the colors and they were like going up. Rukia's dress was absolutely amazing. I did enjoy seeing. Um, the wrap up of her story, even though like she still exists, so like her story can go on in some way, and so it'll be interesting to revisit Rukia. But yeah, I thought this was a strong episode. I really enjoyed the escapism of it, and then they hit us with something serious in the end.
Robbie.
I remember going through it the first time and thinking this isn't the most interesting episode. But then I rewatched it recently and I thought, yeah, it's pretty good. It is pretty good. And it was just great to see the cast so clearly enjoying themselves. They were clearly having an absolute blast. So even if this was the worst episode ever, I wouldn't care because they were so perfect as these childish characters that fit so perfectly because it's a children's book, so the characters are all a bit goofy and simplistic, and the plot isn't very complex. And to see Mabenga get the spotlight was superb because I think I think I think Spock and Mabenga are probably my favorite characters in the show. I just love Babs, his performance. I think it's so weary and wise and um, just perfect as this doctor. And we've never really seen this kind of doctor kind of character type before. We've seen kind of rougher doctors that are kind of sarcastic and jokey, but he feels a bit more professional. And to see him really explore these emotional depths was really interesting. And I think maybe the storybook plot would have went on too long if we didn't have the ending and that emotional climax with Rukia. It definitely reminded me of The Visitor a bit. And I think just Babs really knocked out of the park with the acting at the end there, and I was really happy when I was watching, and that we had this weird godlike space cloud called Deborah, which is very TOS, and the fact that it's just trying to do something kind. It sensed that Rukia has been isolated and alone, and it wants to give her this opportunity of space and freedom to explore a future where she's living a good life. For us, you can't really criticize Babenga. He's trying his best. He was really struggling to find a cure, but she wasn't living, a proper life in the transporter. It's quite sad.
Yeah, it was a very controversial issue too, as Father pointed out earlier, that a lot of people were like really nervous about how this was going to play out, because it had a lot of, it was very, it was a very precarious situation to be in. And I like that. I do like that it's a very Star Trek solution. I did enjoy this episode. I'm not like a huge I haven't liked any of the loved, I should say, any of the attempts in Star Trek to kind of do this sort of thing. I don't know why the medieval thing doesn't look right to me in Star Trek, like the Renaissance fairy thing. I think the closest, the one I enjoy the most are this one and the Lower Decks episode. Where but I just think it's like too, the whole medieval thing is too much. But they did a great job in this episode of it, and I enjoyed Bernadette. Shout out to Bernadette Croft, and of course our friend Giraffe, who was here earlier. She cosplayed as Uhura's character in this episode. But I will say that it was the reason this episode worked so well, and the reason why I ended up loving it in the end was the Rukia resolve, because it was a very nice way to resolve the character, and the setup throughout the season of Dr. Mbenga reading that book, having that book being written by Benny Russell, like all these things that like it came together very nicely, and I think they did a really good job of it. And I can see why it's your favorite, Fathery, of the season. So yeah, kudos to this episode. Anything else before we carry on?
I was so concerned that the kind of transporter plot would just be a really horrible way to kind of an obvious way to show why Mabenga was demoted. Maybe he would do something illegal to obtain a cure, or
right.
Starfleet would find out and he would have to he would get into trouble for that. But they really made it a lot more unique and less predictable. You couldn't predict this kind of thing, and I really enjoyed that. I also thought that Anson Mount, his comedic timing was just perfect.
Excellent. So sorry guys that I didn't get this picture up. That's so embarrassing. And also, folks want to see the full Rukia dress. So if one of y'all send that to me in a DM, I'll try to keep an eye and we'll show it before the show ends, or maybe we'll show it. But anyways, if you find it on the internet, it is really beautiful. Braxton pointed out how it resembles Star Trek Beyond, because it's just like got a beautiful gradient of blues and yellows, and yeah, and the child who plays Rukia, the actor who plays Rukia, was great, and I'm gonna miss her uh, in season two. But it was really cool, like you said, like the visitor, to see her come back and show her father that everything's all right. So that was a really touching moment, and yeah, it was definitely a ball of tears on
If
that one.
if she hadn't come back, then he might be worrying about.
Yeah, you would. I would be like, who's this strange nebula called Deborah that took my daughter? You know, like it is kind of it is kind of wild. But here, okay, so now all those who wonder, you kick this one off, Robbie.
Um, so Dave on Text Trek, I think he was the first one that I noticed that really pointed out the Alien homages, which I never noticed because I've not seen Alien. So this felt like a fresh story to me, even if it didn't for other people. Um, I like that they brought back Davy Perez, who wrote Memento Mori, because I really liked his style in that episode. Um, I thought the Hemmerhura moments were really strong. Um, and they solidified themselves as a great team. And this episode just made me so sad that we don't get to see more of that relationship, because it was really endearing, and Bruce Horak just portrayed this egotistical, wizened character so well. Um, I think Favre said, he is the alien character now that because we already know Spock, and I'm really going to miss him because he hit a sweet spot, and that he was the grumpy character, kind of like McCoy or Odo, and yeah, I thought this was just a very good exploration of the horror genre. I loved that they had puppets used as the Gorn behind the scenes. Um, I also really enjoyed the touching of xenophobia from
Mm.
um, Sam Kirk, and the fact that they made the Gorn so threatening. And yeah, that's basically what I have to say about this episode. But yeah, I thought this was a really, really good story, and I thought that it could have been the finale when it finished.
Excellent. Before, as you tell us, Braxton, what you thought of this episode, I'm gonna just put up this picture so that everyone can see it,
Oh
and
my
so you can see the
gosh.
yeah, the resemblance. But yeah,
Oh.
tell. All right, now back. All right, everyone saw it now. Starfleet boy aims to please. All right, back to all those who wander. So go on.
So I thought this episode was really fun. The first time that I watched it, and then the second and third times I watched it, and as I really sat with it, I thought that this was just far too derivative of Alien and Predator. In the end, I don't like this episode. I don't like the choices that they made in what they're doing with the Gorn. Hopefully, they will see what people think of it, and they will course correct in season two and beyond. Um, Sweet Hammer,
Yeah, it was really
I
sad.
wish that they never did this episode. It was fun to watch, but I wish that they never portrayed the Gorn this way. I wish that they never killed Hammer. This is one of my bottoms, along with episode four, or not episode four, the episode with the cloud, something, the Battery Kid.
The battery
So
kid, yeah.
like, yeah,
So those are the
these are my bottom two.
two.
I did enjoy some things. Like I felt like, so I love Predator and Alien. So I really enjoyed seeing it. Like the first time, like I enjoyed hearing the Predator hiss. But in the end, like I don't think this is a strong episode, but it was a fun watch.
Fathery, quick thoughts on this one. Fathery? No
Ooh,
thoughts.
it's frozen.
Did he froze? Okay.
You're
You're on mute too.
Sorry, I was saying I'll give all my thoughts in 47 seconds.
Go, do it.
This was my least favorite episode of the show. I think it was written very well. I thought it was well executed. I thought it was a good, horror episode. But like Braxton, I did not like this depiction of the Gorn. And Davy Perez, strong writer. Like I said, it was written very well. But to me, he will always be known as the writer who introduced the word youngling into the Star Trek universe.
That's right.
Borderline unforgivable. He's just got to live with that curse the rest of his life. But yeah, the Hemmer death, I was sad to see him go. But it was definitely well performed, and I felt it. I will feel his loss.
Yeah, same here. I'll just say that this episode, I agree with all your sentiments, especially yours, Fathery, about how well written it was and stuff. But that yes, the Hemmer death really crushed me, and so I can't give it. I think this is the first episode I gave it like 9.5 out of 10 instead of a 9 or something, or 10 instead of a 10. So yeah, it was just because of that. But otherwise, it was pretty awesome episode. We got to wrap up real quick. So
Wait,
I'm sorry.
can I say one? Sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Knowing that Davy Perez, he looked at the Hunt of Red October for
Yes,
for
I did like that.
Memento Mori, or was it? He
Yeah, it
he
was-
seems to have looked at older Trek and films for his inspiration. And if people thought that All Those Who Wander was too much like Alien, then I hope that if he writes an episode for season 2, that he doesn't rely on other media too much, that he's homaging it directly, because that could become a bit lazy and it could become too much.
True. Fathery, give us quick Quality of Mercy thoughts, and then I know you got to head off, so you can head off if you need to.
Sure, I'll give my thoughts in 31 seconds this time for section 31. But yeah, this finale, I was kind of mixed on it at first. There was a lot of really cool stuff in it. Starting off with the monster maroon, and that I wish they hadn't have messed up by adding those insignias on the top of it and messing up the flap. But it was cool to revisit Balance of Terror. I certainly enjoyed Ethan Peck playing the TOS era Spock. I was mixed on Paul Wesley's Kirk, and that's gonna take me some getting used to in season 2. He said like he's playing the character very differently in season 2, so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, but overall it was it was kind of fun to see Pike go through his arc and end up in a different spot than where he was at the beginning of the season. And I gotta go because I'm gonna go run the Text Trek stream starting in about 6 or 7 minutes. But I will leave y'all with a link to it.
Yes, please put it in the chat. And everyone, if you have some time, go check that stream out right after this. I know it's a lot of Trek, but maybe you can get a quick.
We're going to be unpacking all the Picard season 3 and Lower Deck season 3, and even some news on Strange New Worlds season 2. I got details that we didn't cover yesterday in the
right
Trek
on
stream, so that'll be fun. I'll see people over there. Bye. Live long and prosper.
See you, Fathery. Thank you.
See you, Fathery.
Braxton, what did you think of this episode? I love talking with you about it on our spaces, by the way. That was fun fun to do.
Dude, absolutely. So I thought this was a strong finish to the season. The only issue that I had was that Kirk simply is not William Shatner enough, and I think that I just have to get used to seeing the actor in a different portrayal of Kirk. And a lot of people had made the point, well, if he had tried to act it like William Shatner, that would have been bad because there's just kind of one William Shatner, and it would look cheap and bad, and he just wouldn't do a good job at it. So I understand the direction that they took, but I thought that this was a super interesting story. Like it was like dense and it was like compelling. It's like dude, like there is like no way to change this. I thought that the young lady who plays Nurse Chapel was so good in that scene where Spock was horrifically injured, and more story building on the relationship between Pike and Spock. Real powerful stuff. This was a great cap to the season. My second favorite episode behind Memento Mori.
Nice. Robbie.
On paper, I would not like this episode. Um, I like time travel in Star Trek, but I do think it can be overused. I think that, you know, I'm not a huge fan of Kirk returning in Strange New Worlds. The fact that they kind of revisited a previous iconic episode would on paper feel lazy to me, but no, it was just such a good episode. The way that they homaged TOS and melded it with Strange New Worlds and brought Pike agency and allowed him to go through with a wrong decision and then realize the repercussions and realize that he has to put other people first. He's such a decent character that he wants to save this boy, but he doesn't realize that he can't. He has to let this boy. Does the boy die? Sorry.
Wait. Which boy are you talking about?
Not.
Oh, Ma'at, that's right. Yes, he's going to be one of the
Yes.
ones that actually dies. You're right.
Yes.
Right.
So he has to let this boy die, which is horrific,
exactly.
especially for such a
Another child. Although he'll be older when he dies, but another. That's really horrifying. Poor Pike. He's got lots of trauma to deal with with all these kids, man.
especially for such a well-meaning and decent character such as
Person,
Pike,
yeah.
who always wants to do the right thing, but there is really no right thing in this situation. I mean, either choice he makes, you can argue whether it's right or wrong. But the fact that he puts himself in risk for others, because I think that's just great, especially because this season has been partly about him healing through other people, through the Enterprise. There's a timeline where he never got back on board the Enterprise, and he was just, a sad man in that cabin. And who knows what would have happened then, but it's just he's just such a great role model, and to go through this mistake and realize how wrong it was superb. And they didn't recreate too much of Balance of Terror that would be, a rip-off, and that it wouldn't be a new episode, it wouldn't be adding anything new. But the fact that they add this season-long story with Pike, which I'm glad they didn't overdo his storyline in the season. They didn't, reflect back on it almost every episode, and they just kind of put it to rest in this story so that he can be free of it, hopefully in the future, and just accepting it. It's really mature. It's really well handled. You can really tell from Akiva Goldsman and Henry Alonso Myers that they just have a deep passion for TOS, and they're really taking out the best of the characters. And who would have thought that Anson Mount, that Pike would be, one of Star Trek's best captains before Discovery, before Strange New Worlds, but they've given him this wonderful, all-encompassing story, and it doesn't just feel like TOS 2.0. It feels like they are doing something fresh, and they are filling in the gaps in a very fulfilling way, and that's why I am not as much of a fan as Kirk, because then it feels more like TOS to me, and I think they've got it just right how they're doing it now, with new and old. But also, if you want my feelings on Kirk, then someone posted a meme where William Shatner's Kirk is Coca-Cola, Kelvin Kirk is Cherry Cola, and this Kirk in this alternate timeline is Diet Cola. And that's my thoughts on this Captain Kirk. I thought he was horrendous, boring, Captain of the Week.
Wow.
And he didn't feel like Kirk at all to me, to be honest. I really didn't like him, and I don't want to see him again.
Okay. so so real quick, I have to end the stream because we're gonna. I think Father's probably all by himself over there on Text Trek, but I just want to say that I agree with like most of your sentiments, as well as what all of you guys were saying. This was definitely my favorite episode of the season. I really love the way they wrapped up the story and the twist on and revisiting slash visiting of balance of terror, and like putting in this new factor or these new variables, like showing that, like, I love the idea of like how sometimes we have an idea of our importance, that and our importance in the time in general, our legacy, and we have a certain way of like what we want that legacy to be, but it could turn out that like maybe just like influencing or mentoring or just like affecting someone in a positive way can be the true legacy. And I love that that's what Pike comes to understand about his relationship with Spock. And it's so superb. And then the episode just gives us a nice, like, I'm not a huge fan of cliffhangers. Like, I hate waiting. Like, I hated waiting that whole summer when the best of both worlds like ended on that cliffhanger and we didn't know what was going to happen. But little I guess what you could call this is like a ledge hanger with Una getting arrested was fantastic, and I thought it was wonderful. The episode felt cinematic, it was exciting, and as far as Paul Wesley's Kirk is concerned, I was able to compartmentalize that this is not the Kirk in terms of as a character, never minding the performance, but as a character, this is not the same Kirk. And I did find that Paul Wesley did an amazing job of conveying. I had the luck of watching Balance of Terror right before, like hours before I watched Quality of Mercy, because there was just like a little tip off on the internet, I forget, or from Father or someone that said maybe it's a good idea to go watch Balance of Terror. And so having watched that episode and then seeing this episode right after was such a treat, because there are so many nuanced reflections, and I have to say that like I think Paul Wesley to me did a great job of a what if version of Kirk. If he was the
What if Kirk had no charisma?
Wow. Like, Robbie, you're so brutal, man. You're coming after Paul Wesley, you're coming after Brent Spiner. My gosh. My God, man. But I love it. I love your sass. But anyways, for me, Paul Wesley worked, and I'm excited to see him reprise his role as Kirk. I do agree with all of your sentiments that Kirk should not be a big part of Strange New Worlds. I definitely want him to be, like have a moment and then not worry about Kirk ever, like until later on. But at the same time, I do want to give Paul Wesley a chance to show us Lieutenant Kirk. And again, he's going to be playing Kirk at a different time in his life, so I'm very open to how he chooses to perform. This was a great first season of Star Trek. It was like such a wonderful thing to see, and I can't wait for more. And so, gentlemen, I hate to cut things short so quickly. I didn't know that this discussion would go a little over, but I had so much fun talking with you. And audience, I loved all your comments, and just like the vibe that you brought into this discussion today was really awesome. Is there anything you'd like to promote, Braxton and Robbie?
I don't know whether to promote it because it's still going to be a while before it comes out, and I promote stuff before, and then I've taken big breaks. So I realize people might think I'm not with it, but I'm making a video currently on Strange New World Season 1, and it's going well. I've kind of hit a roadblock because I've ran out of space on my computer, so I have to wait until next month when I have to pay to buy more space. It's just because it's big video files that I'm using.
Someone send this man an external hard
No.
drive.
But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I didn't realize it would be such a long video, but
Well, we're
I
looking
just
forward
love
to it
the
whenever you finish
first
it.
season so much. And talking about it today with you both has been a joy.
Thank you, Robbie. It was really wonderful having you on too. Braxton, what have you got going on to promote?
Dude, nothing to promote besides you and Father E in like now. So as soon as we jump off, dude, I'm gonna go ahead and jump on Text Track, and I can't
Yay!
wait to hear about all the announcements from yesterday
Yeah, we're
and
going deep. We're gonna go deep on
at Comic Con.
that. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you all next time. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Live